Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of our EKN Debrief. It is episode number 97, Tuesday, June the 28th, 2022. My name is Rob Howden, joined as always by David Cole as we get set to dive in for our race report of the 2022 California ROK Championship, the one-off event that was held this past weekend at Pat's Acres Racing Complex in Canby, Oregon, up in the Pacific Northwest, one of the most picturesque racetracks you'll ever go to. David's first trip there. We'll talk a lot about that when we jump into it. But let's begin, of course, as always, by introducing our presenting sponsor, which today is Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding new parts to their product line. Make sure you head to cometkartsales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. All right, let's dive into this, David Cole. Or just the overview, I guess. California ROK Championship. Interesting. It was supposed to be a 3-race program. They didn't get the entries they needed with all the racing that's going on in Southern California for their first event in May. Andy Say has been saying, you know what? There's just so much going on right now. We're going to do one big event. Everybody wants to go up to Pat's Acres. Let's do that. So June 24th, 25th, 26th was the date for the one-off up at Pat's. All in all, didn't get the numbers that they wanted, but man, did we ever have a good time.
Yeah, essentially you could just say it was a good revival weekend for, I think, myself, mostly yourself as well, to kind of show us what karting is all about. It's about having fun and having a good time. I think really, sometimes we get too enclosed with, results and championships and focus on making the sport more professional, but in all, again, karting's fun. So again, that was kind of the focus of the California ROK Championship event at Pat's Acres.
Well, what's really the interesting thing for me too, and we'll get into it in a bit. Obviously, second trip to the facility for the California ROK Championship after the 2020 season. Andy Saisman sent out a survey to all his racers who had run the program and said, "Hey, listen, what's a track that we haven't been to that you guys really want to go to?" And there was a huge feedback that, hey, man, we want to go up to Pat's Acres. We want to go up to this iconic racetrack that we've heard so much about. A lot of big events that happened there in the past, ICAF Grand National, Scusa Pro Moto Tour events, whatever it may be. So Andy put it on the schedule. A bunch of drivers went up last year. And so, hey, let's go back and do it again this year. People loved it. It's going to be fun. All in all, just, again, the way the schedule kind of played out, we've seen this happen before, right? The California Pro Kart Challenge is running on the same weekend down at Cal Speed. The Pad Holder Super Cup, Northwest Karting Association ran the week before in Medford, Oregon. Just the numbers didn't line up once again. We ended up with 56 drivers in total. We had a fantastic time. There is a focus with Andy and the Eggers of making this an annual deal. Tough place to start from, but they set the baseline. All in all, I feel bad for not having a lot of racers, but everybody that was there had fun, which is key.
Yeah, that was the main thing. It was good racing. Again, you only need 2 drivers to have a race, and we saw good racing in every single category. That had more than one driver in it. But yeah, so I mean, that's what you ask for when you go to a karting event: having a good time and have competition, and that's exactly what was there at this past weekend at Pat's Acres. I think what everybody didn't want was the heat. I think that was one of the major factors. Again, looking back at the weekend, the track temperature for the ROK Shifter main event on Saturday, and again, this was around maybe 2:00 around that time, 2:00 Pacific time. The track temperature was nearly 140 degrees. Yeah. It's hot when your arms are sweating. Typically you don't have your arms sweating, and it was a bit of a warm one. Again, it's not typical weather for that area, but again, it's the summertime. You never know what you're going to get. The best part about it is it didn't rain. Again, we were camping, and again, drivers hate going back and forth. and you never know with the Pacific Northwest about rain. But that was one thing we didn't have to deal with was wet weather.
Yeah, blue skies the entire time we were there. It's actually Chamber of Commerce weather, other than the fact that they got up into the high 90s on Sunday. As I had said before, second trip to the facility, mostly high 80s, low 90s was kind of where we were. Cooler at night, which was nice, but we did get up into almost 99 degrees, I think, on Sunday afternoon. But that seemed to be the order of the day. I know the guys racing in the SCUSA that down at Cal Speed, it was super hot. The guys that were out in Texas as well, at Denton, Texas, for the Texas Sprint Kart Series or Sprint Racing Series. Texas
there you go.
Sprint Racing Series. It was super hot there as well, and it gets that way in Texas. So the heat seemed to be the order of the day throughout the entire weekend and events from coast to coast. All told, though, David, if you look at the numbers, they had 70 last year, 56, as we said. The 56, it probably would have been a couple more, but there were, 2 or 3 drivers in junior and 2 or 3 drivers in senior. Some didn't run in the senior ROK class. We talked at length about the fact that 100cc liquid cooled single speed racing is just not being supported on the West Coast right now, which is wild. Had a couple drivers move from there over into the 100cc classes. A couple drivers didn't run, so ended up with 56 in total. Combined the ROK and mini ROK classes into a cadet class that showed great racing throughout the weekend. Senior 100cc was strong, David, with 90 in total.
19, yes.
Probably an 19. And then, hey, Masters and Junior. Not huge, but the racing was awesome.
Yeah, the racing was awesome. But again, yeah, we had more Masters 100cc drivers than last year. Last year only had 2. This year we moved to 5, to where the Masters ROK division went from 8 to 1. So again, you get growth in one. Unfortunately, you're losing in the other. And that was the case too, because there were senior and junior ROK drivers last year. Those drivers moved over to the 100cc category this year. So, or this track side when they were pre-entered. So again, it's just the ebb and flow of our sport. Again, I don't think there was as many events that were scheduled on or around this weekend as well too last year. So that's part of the numbers situation that we're kind of looking at. But again, ROK Shifter at 8, ROK Shifter Masters at 6. That's an increase of 2. So again, 14 shifter kart drivers out there on that small 0.6 of a mile racetrack makes for an exciting session for sure.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, no doubt about it. So all total 56 drivers for this edition of the California ROK Championship. As I had said, the conversation throughout the entire weekend was this is something we're going to focus on. We're going to keep growing this program. Andy Saisman, of course, has now moved up to Idaho, but is the West Coast distributor for the ROK program. And that the key is to keep growing this. Obviously, the challenge of the Americans, the winner's a great program. Keep building the ROK program on the West Coast. And this one-off event is going to be something they do again next year. A lot of cool thoughts. They're throwing around a bunch of different ideas of how to make it even more enjoyable weekend next year. We'll talk more about that before we're all done. But let's go to our first break. When we get back, we'll jump into the paddock pass, chat a little bit more just about essentially what we started here with, just the overall feel of the weekend. Made in the USA. That's exactly what you get from Precision Karting Technologies. Based in Detroit, Michigan, PKT brings over 35 years of manufacturing experience to the sport of karting. Their passion for the sport began focusing around the Kid Kart platform and has expanded every year with hundreds of products designed to put you on the podium. Precision Karting Technologies is known around North America for their successful line of axles, available in all age groups. PKT manufactures a number of engine products for Comer, IAME, ROK, Rotax, and the popular Briggs & Stratton 206. A wide variety of chassis components for the many brands in the sport are available through PKT, including hubs, pedal risers, skid plates, and other hardware for your kart. Axle straightening, chassis adjustments, engine service, and specific CNC machining projects are available through their Motor City headquarters. To learn more about the many products and services available from Precision Karting Technologies, head to pktaxles.com. You can buy all the latest and greatest products on the market, but when you're karting to win, it boils down to one thing: you, the driver. Gain the knowledge and abilities by investing in yourself at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, and you'll find those extra tenths of a second you need to put yourself on the podium. The school was established by SuperKarts USA Hall of Fame driver Alan Rudolph, with decades of victories and championships in multiple forms of the sport, including other disciplines of racing. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at the Speed Sports Racing Park in the metropolitan Houston area, is designed to teach driving skills at all levels. The instructors of the Academy have decades of racing experience and educating drivers of all ages. Classes at the Academy will teach the concepts and skills needed both behind the wheel and off the track. From the beginning kart racing experience and intro to karting courses, to their advanced 1-day and 2-day courses and karting clinics, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can improve the skills of any driver. For more information on the specific programs that the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can provide for you, head to speedsports.com and click on the Racing Academy page. Be sure to follow the Academy on social media by searching for Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Welcome back to episode number 97 of our EKN Debrief, the wrap-up of our EKN Trackside Live coverage, where we dive in and do a full report on the event that we were just at. This one, we're talking about the California ROK Championship at Pat's Acres Racing Complex. I'm Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. The Paddock Pass now presented by Parolin USA. It all started in 1994 when former kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and they run a factory race team at all the major SuperKarts USA, USPKS, and ROK Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2022 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior drivers, the 28mm Opportunity model for the cadet classes, and the Daytona 4-cycle chassis. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. So, David, we talked about having fun. Great racing. Well, we had great wheel-to-wheel action, fantastic track, awesome atmosphere, an iconic facility. But from the very beginning, when you and I were talking about this on the way home, we're like, okay, what do we start with the Paddock Pass? We say this. I came back with basketball, steaks, smash burgers, and rental carts.
Smash burgers, yeah, they were smash.
Yeah, we had fun. we had fun on the weekend. We camped out, right? There's a number of people that had the campers there. We rented a camper, a trailer, and had fun, and just we hung out. It was just for you and I, and the way we normally do things, back to the hotel, thrashing away. We just kind of capped off the day, had a cold one, and was able to grill out. It was a really fun weekend, all total.
Yeah, again, bringing the fun back into karting. That's kind of the synopsis of the weekend. Again, Andy's Challenge in America's program and the California ROK Championship. It's about having fun. Good, all the way dating back to the Gators program. When it was Gators, the regional program he had in Southern California. It was always about having fun, and a lot of programs start that way. The Pro Kart Challenge was about guys having fun. There was no kids, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of programs within our sport. Quincy Grand Prix, Rock Island Grand Prix. It's all about having fun and having a good time. And I think it was a good refresher. It kind of, again, competitive on track, but having fun off the track as well too. A lot of people were talking about, all the grilling out and eating and having a good time. And again, it's the only racetrack that has an actual basketball hoop on the pit lane. So, right. So you got to have a couple basketball games in there. So that was, for us staying there, it was a good opportunity when the track was cold to go up there and shoot some hoops and play a couple, pickup games and have fun that way. And again, as you said, we're all camping out there. People were, grilling out all weekend long. You did smash burgers Saturday night for the California ROK Championship staff and the Ager family that was there as well too. So again, and then wrapped it up Sunday night with those who were still there with some rental kart racing. So it was good. It was good fun. I'm a little beat up both mentally, physically, and liver wise. So
yeah, no kidding, right? It was a workout.
So it's certainly, that's kind of how you want it to wrap up is making memories. Again, like I told Andy Saisman, the pain will go away, but the memories will still be here forever. So that's what you want when you leave a race.
another one, another story was, Jim Kidd and Rob Soares and the crew from Aluminos, right? They kind of road tripped their way up here, had some fun on the way up. They had got an Airbnb in a hot tub and stuff, and they were all cooking. Jim Kidd was rocking out some Jamaican jerk one night. We all know that Rob Soares this guy can cook for sure. So they, that crew came up from Northern California and had a blast up here too. And, we followed Jim and Cassie and their their drive up north to Pat's and stopping off at cool places. Really, it's what the sport's about: the people, the family, the teams you run with. The on-track action's all there, but it's always great to wrap it all together. It really, for me, really brought me back to when I first started in the sport back in '95, and when I would do some of our regional events up here in Ontario, the OKRA. It was me and probably 4, 5, 6 of our buddies that would roll in on the Friday nights, set up our tents or whatever, and we'd be grilling and having a couple of cold ones, working on the carts at the track, and those were some of the best times I've ever had in the sport.
Yeah, that's how my introduction has been all family related. We did it as a family. It was something that we participated in all together. Traveled together, and that's, again, what karting is. And you can have it at all different levels. You can have it at the club level, regional level, even the national level. And that's, again, karting is what you make it, and it depends on what you want it to be. And that's kind of always been my philosophy moving forward, or in the past and moving forward. And hopefully more people take it that way. Not a lot of people are going to be able to graduate to other forms of motorsports. And this is their F1. But it's also hobby. It's also a chance to bring your family together and have a good time. And again, I think we just got to continue to focus on those types of elements regarding the sport of karting.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun before and after the racing, to talking about the actual racing itself to a certain extent here in this edition of the Paddock Pass. One of the conversations, David, we had was, there's X amount of entries here, but everybody kind of looked back and said, wow, there was a lot of races either going on this particular weekend or the previous weekend that kind of cost entries, right? I mentioned the California Pro Kart Challenge. There was a series event in Colorado. Talked about the Northwest Karting Association. ROK Sonoma was coming off an event. Just a lot of races that would probably cost entries for this particular race up at Pat's.
Yeah, it doesn't allow people to do a one-off type style event. That's something that you struggle with having a one-off. You got to build a base, and that's unfortunately the tough road, and that's kind of where the event is right now. And it's now, okay, we have 364 days to figure out how do we get clubs and series and other promoters to kind of, figure out a good way to work around it, to find an open spot. Because again, like I talked about previously, I don't think there were a lot of races going on at this time last year. So it was a perfect time to do it. Now this year, all of a sudden, like you said, we had California Pro Kart Challenge, we had the Colorado Karting Tour, we had Texas Sprint Racing Series, all going on at the same time as the challenge, or the California ROK Championship. And then you have in the region, the Northwest Karting Association had their Pad Holders Super Cup Sprint Series event down in Medford the weekend prior. So people had raced in Oregon, and then because the majority of the competitors, Washington area, Seattle area, so they would have had to come back into Portland again. So not everybody was up in arms about that, or willing to do that. Plus, they were midway in their championship. Yep. So it's kind of hard to do that. So, again, it's going to be about cooperation and trying to work together. Again, that's always been a huge factor in our sport is promoters, series, and clubs and tracks all trying to work together for the common goal of putting on some of the best racing as you can. And, again, some days it works, some days it doesn't. And you just kind of have to keep rolling with the punches and figure out what's the best route and what's the best avenue to go.
Dave, one of the best conversations I think we had on the weekend, you and I were kind of working through the paddock and got a chance to talk to Kyle Wick, Connor Wick, Jacob Gulick was there as well, Gary Carlton, kind of chatting a little bit about the track itself, right? And with the pavement and what it's like with the tires. I really enjoyed that conversation. You had mentioned And you have it here that the track was over a half a second off for shifter where it was last year, although the grip did come up. Just a little bit different with the heat, and that was a really great conversation with some of the top shifter kart drivers in the sport.
Yeah, because this is a track that's not utilized a lot for competitive karting. It's mostly a rental kart track. Hell, Monday when we left, it was being used for motorcycle school. So, that was one of the worries that, hey, the motorcycle's going over the rubber that was all laid down. They're not used to having that type of rubber buildup around that racetrack. So, it's an interesting scenario. And again, it's all based on, the amount of events that go on. And it's also based on the amount of karts that are on the racetrack. So maybe because there wasn't quite enough amount of karts that there wasn't enough grip laid down, or it could just be the weather having a major factor. Obviously when you get track temperature up there in 140 degrees, it's a little bit becomes a little bit more greasier and not able to actually lay the rubber down. So it provides more grip. But again, a lot of different factors, but that was an interesting note to hear from Gary and them.
Yeah, that's it for the Paddock Pass. Let's go for another break. When we come back, we'll jump into the race report, and we'll start things off with ROK Shifter Senior and Senior 100cc. There's a new hot button name in American safety equipment, Stilo USA. Every product with Stilo is focused on safety, comfort, and function. Stilo USA is happy to provide you with the proper safety apparel to keep you protected on the track, and their karting lineup is second to none. The ST5 KRT karting helmet is available for $599. Manufactured using a lightweight and extremely strong composite material, the KRT provides an excellent fit and comfort level due to its dual density interior foam lining, and it's equipped with a symmetrical visor that offers excellent vision and an effortless central visor locking system. The ST5 CMR standard was developed jointly by the FIA Institute and Snell Memorial Foundation to ensure safer and lighter weight helmets for the younger karters. Drivers rave about the superior comfort levels, lightweight construction, and the unparalleled field of vision. The perfect youth helmet is available for $549. Stilo didn't stop with their helmets either. The newly developed Carbon Curva Rib Protector is unlike any on the market, with its form-fitting solution to offer superior protection. Head to StiloHelmets.com to review these and many more products to keep you safe on the track. Stilo. Any competition, one helmet. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for 2022 include the Ignite Majors, featuring events at the Daytona International Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Quincy Grand Prix, Newcastle Motorsports Park, and the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the 5-round, regionally based Ignite Challenge at tracks in Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. Local club programs have also been established in other states like Idaho, Texas, Nebraska, New York, Florida, and more. Join Margay Racing for some fast, fun, and great memories at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Welcome back to episode 97 of our EKN Debrief, taking a dive into the California ROK Championship event up in Portland, Oregon. Canby, actually, at the Pat's Acres Racing Complex. This edition of the Race Report brought to you by Skip Barber Racing Schools. Are you looking for the next step in racing? Going from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Racing School. Skip Barber alumni are champions in every motorsports series, including Formula One, NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar. Get behind the wheel of a Skip Barber Formula 4 car featuring a 160 horsepower turbocharged engine. Our highly structured and competitive Skip Barber Formula Race Series is the perfect platform to start your racing career, so you can fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. With equalized race cars and a focus on driver development, your driving skills will determine if you end up in victory lane. Learn more about the Skip Barber Racing School at skipbarber.com or call 866-932-1949. All right, David, let's jump into the race report here. We'll start with ROK Shifter Senior. Really only one name all weekend long, and that was Kyle Wick. This guy was absolutely flat dominant with GFC karting, running the black and yellow colors of Track Magic, the iconic American brand. Kyle just, again, one of the top shifter kart drivers in the country. His only falter on the weekend was not getting off the line well from pole in heat race in 1 and 2 when Jacob Gulick was able to get the whole shot on him. But Wick quickly went back to the lead and really dominated the action and was able to win on Sunday as well.
Yeah, and if I recall, I think Wimsett got in there one time as well, too. I think he might have put back Wick down to third. I think it might have been even the opening heat race there. But yeah, it's better to do that early on in the weekend than when it all counts. And that was in the main event. Wick was able to get off the line clean and get through the opening couple corners without relinquishing that top spot. But again, a dominant performance by Kyle Wick and aboard that Track Magic machine. Again, looks great. All that green there at Pat's Acres. You mix in that Track Magic yellow and black. It's a great equation to get some solid photos on the weekend. And
you took some great stuff. Your shots this weekend were fantastic. They really looked good. So qualifying, Wick P1, Gulick second, Wimsett third. How about Joey Wimsett, 30 years of age, out there gunning with the big dogs and was able to hold on over the 22 lap distance in the main event.
Yeah, again, he hasn't raced since the Super Nationals in December, so it's been a 6-month absence for him behind the wheels. So he did go out. I talked to him earlier in the weekend. He went out, last week and got in some laps just to shake off a little bit of rust. But again, yeah, it's showing. When you race at the home racetrack, it helps get those kinks out quickly and early. And he certainly showed the pace because Wick and Gulick have been among the top 2 drivers in shifter kart ranks all season long.
Yeah, indeed. Wick ends up winning by 7.918 seconds in the main event on Sunday. Jacob Gulick kind of by himself in the second spot. The battle throughout the entire race, David, was for third, though, as Connor Wick on the GFC was putting a ton of pressure on Wims. It was really off his rear bumper the entire race, kept looking to the inside in certain places. Wimsett slowly starting to kind of cover off the inside of turn 4, the right-hand hairpin, which is a primary passing opportunity, kind of run that semi-defensive line through there. Wimsett didn't have it easy. Connor Wick certainly put the pressure on for 22 laps.
Yeah, he made Joey work for it hard. There was a lot of pressure there. And again, a great performance by Connor Wick. He continues. It's almost like how we saw Gulick last year, just continually get better and better. I think this is kind of Connor Wick's kind of progression year as he continues to get a little bit quicker and quicker and a little bit more comfortable, I think, being up there towards the front end of the field.
Kyle Dupel was pretty good as well. We saw him come back into CRG. Haven't seen Kyle on a kart for a while. He was able to come back and kind of was right in the battle there in the top 5. I think he qualified P4. In the end, he did not finish the main event. Cameron Egger on the Croc promotion was dialing things in throughout the weekend, David. He ended up capping off the top 5.
Yeah, just not quite the pace there to be able to compete there with the top 4. But again, powered through and was able to claim that top 5 finish.
A number of the categories that we'll talk about here as we do the debrief and go through the race report segment had one driver kind of dominated the action. That did not happen, David, in the 100cc senior class. Kieran Rogers was actually the fast qualifier over Zach Fransky and Dylan Lyons. Caleb Schrader came up to win the heat race number 1. Dylan Lyons ended up winning heat race number 2, and Kyriakos Soukas was the driver who came up to score the victory in heat race number 3. So 3 different winners over the 3 heat races. What was interesting for me, and this is what put Soukas on the pole for the pre-final, he started 9th in the heat races and then second, third, and a win. Really solid. We ran 3 heat races on Saturday to set the grid for the Sunday pre-final. he just came storming up from, the inside of row 5, and all those races. Really was impressive on Saturday.
Yeah, did a phenomenal job making up for the the ninth place qualifying effort that he had. And again, they weren't progressive heat races, so he had to start there every single heat race. And again, passing at Pat's Acres is not an easy task, and he did a phenomenal job. And then to be able to go from 9th to 1st in that third heat, he certainly got more and more comfortable with the racetrack and more comfortable with the racecraft around the circuit, and was able to pick up that victory and all that progression. Yeah, put him on the pole position for the pre-final alongside Dylan Lyons. Unfortunately, the racing continued to heat up a little bit more in the pre-final. I want to say probably within the first 7 laps of the pre-final there, the first half of the race. Yeah, it was hot, heavy racing up front, and Sukas was among those. And unfortunately, contact put him off the racetrack, and he actually lost a chain during that incident as well. So he was leading at one point and then recorded a DNF in the pre-final to put him towards the back of the grid for the main event.
Yeah, he started quite a ways back, almost, I want to say 16th or 17th, I think is where he started in that one. The pre-final ended up going to Zach Fransky, who was very impressive all told on the weekend. Wins the pre-final over Kieran Rogers. Zach Meyer actually ends up P3, but the driver coming across the line in third was actually Caleb Schrader, but contact in turn number 11 later in the race ended up with right in front of the race director, they were standing right there in the mid part of the racetrack. Schrader getting a 10-second penalty, David, that dropped him down to 10th for the main event. But that really kind of set the stage for Schrader turning it up and really putting on a show in the Rollison Performance Group Cosmic.
Yeah, it provided a show for sure, without a doubt. Schrader was, as we saw throughout the weekend, especially in the heat races, he was among the top contenders. But again, you just didn't know, because there was, again, so many different drivers that were capable of winning. They just had to have everything kind of play out and the cards laid out just right for them to be there. And for Schrader, was able to, fight his way forward driver position by position, and eventually was able to get up into the top spot with him and Zach Meyer right there running 1-2 towards the end of the race. They were able to pull away and get a little bit of a gap. Zach Meyer unable to make anything happen there in the final couple of laps or a couple of corners, as Schrader would go on to earn that victory.
Indeed, Kyriakos Sukas was one of the other drivers to watch. We talked about Schrader and Meyer going at it out front. Sukas coming from the tail of the field, marched his way forward. By the time he got to third, number one, I think probably a little bit out of tires at that point, because he really wasn't able to make any more, kind of plateaued on speed. But also Schrader and Meyer had already been able to pull away to the point the gap was there. So Sukas coming home with a solid third position, again, having started deep in the field. Aaron Farhadi, David, ended up in the 4th spot, kind of turned things around. He struggled a little bit during the heat races, but looked really good in the third heat race and pretty strong in the pre-final. Ended up getting a solid 4th place position for Farhadi, and then Fransky rounding out the top 5.
Yeah, good effort all weekend long for Farhadi, even though he lost to me and Eric Thomas in the basketball game.
Yeah, beatdown right here.
That's what happens when you face MJ and Pippen. That's all I got to say.
All told, a good weekend for Caleb Schrader, though, David, getting the win.
Yeah, it was. And, again, Farhadi was that driver in third. And then, as you said, once Sukas got there, it was kind of like, okay, this is the gap's a little bit too much. And again, the pace just wasn't quite there to be able to reel in the top 2 that were there. But overall, it was a great weekend of racing in this category. Phenomenal stuff to watch all weekend long.
Well, and it was the biggest class at 19 drivers, and they put a show on for us, right? That was the beauty of the whole thing. So
and again, a lot of drivers we don't typically see. We see Sukas, we saw Farhadi, we see Schrader, but Meyer we've only seen a few times, and then the local drivers Zach Fransky, Kieran Rogers, Dylan Lyons, all these, Jack Doyle, all these drivers were doing a phenomenal job, representing their home racetrack.
Yeah, like we said before, in the outlap, a good opportunity for us to get a chance to see these guys race and kind of introduce them to us and vice versa. Looking forward to seeing if we see them back on the racetrack again soon. So don't go anywhere. When we get back, we'll jump into some Masters Shifter. We'll do Masters 100cc. It'll be all Masters in this next group. Is IndyCar your dream? If it is, for 2022 and beyond, the path from karting to IndyCar has gotten even clearer. It's time to look into the new USF Juniors program. As a stepping stone onto the road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires, Anderson Promotions will debut a new series next season that will provide the ultimate opportunity for driver development for karting's career-minded racers. The new USF Junior Series will feature a 6-event, 16-race schedule to train racers for the move into the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship. The champion will win a scholarship worth over $200,000, and the total prize fund will exceed $325,000. Next year, the series will utilize the current HPD-powered Ligier JS chassis, and a brand new car with a Halo-type device will be introduced in 2023. If IndyCar is your goal, USF Juniors is the starting line. For more information, visit usfjuniors.com and follow USF Juniors on social media. Powered by technology, DID racing chains have a worldwide reputation for superior quality and reliability. Meticulously engineered and manufactured in Japan, DID genuine parts are the world's #1 original parts supplier for Japanese and European motorcycle manufacturers. A rich racing tradition where results speak for themselves, DID prides itself on engineering the most technologically advanced chains on the market to help you excel on and off the track. DID's SDH pin treatment creates an extremely hard chromium carbide layer on the pin surface that houses a soft inner core to absorb extreme shock loads. DID's 219 HTZ racing chain boasts this SDH pin technology, which leads to longer chain life as well as excellent energy transmission to the wheels. Available in the gorgeous gold, the 219 HTZ is the ultimate racing kart chain. Pick up a DID chain at your local dealer today, because when winning is the only thing that matters, go with DID. Welcome back to episode number 97 of the EKN Debrief, as we are doing our race report for the California ROK Championship event this past weekend up at the Pat's Acres Racing Complex. The race report today brought to you by the Skip Barber Racing Schools. We'll move into the ROK Shifter Masters class. We talked about how Kyle Wick kind of dominated the action in the senior class. In the Masters division, it was actually Thomas Riddle who came out of the gate qualifying first over Rusty Lingle and Stefan Gaudreau. But from there, Rusty Lingle on the Croc promotion machine, David, pretty much just took control. He was really the guy to beat for the remainder of the weekend.
He was. He set the tone pretty much all throughout the heat races, not really challenged. He had Riddle right there in second for the opening 2 heat races. Riddle had an issue prior to Heat 3. I think it was a cracked chassis, so he was unable to make the start as they weren't able to get that repaired in time for the 3rd heat race. So that allowed Jim Kidd to actually move up into the 2nd spot. And a driver who wasn't there throughout the heat races, who we saw put down the fast time on Fast Friday, was Justin Williams. So Justin Williams actually missed qualifying in all 3 rounds of heat races, but he was able to come back Sunday after attending a wedding on Saturday to compete in the 2 races to decide the event's winner. Williams was able to put himself in the top 3 in the pre-final behind Lingle and Riddle, who was able to repair his kart. And then early on in the final, it was a good little battle between these 3 drivers. I wasn't really quite sure who was going to be able to emerge. Eventually, Lingo was able to kind of get the advantage and then put a little bit of a gap over Williams and Riddle to be able to cruise to a 3.1 second victory.
Yeah, solid one there for Rusty. If you haven't had a chance to look at our social media, we did get a chance to do interviews with all of our senior winners at the end of the day. Rusty and I chatted a bit there, so you can look on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook for those. David, in the Masters 100cc category, it was good to see 5 drivers in total come and racing. That was a kind of a solid deal for Masters. And again, all these drivers kind of throwing the challenge out to everybody else to come up and race next year. Lindsey High came out of the gate and qualified on the pole. Jeff Bays was second. Mike Smith back in 3rd spot. Mike had, in a happy hour on Friday afternoon, Mike did a race simulation, 25 laps, the last lap being his fastest. So he was the quickest in happy hour. But they we thought it might have been they missed the tire pressure, but didn't he say they thought they might have had a broken reed, I think is what he said, for qualifying on Saturday morning?
Yeah. Well, first off, the Fast Friday, I didn't even know that until about an hour after the session was over.
I know, neither did I.
Somebody said, "Hey, he posted fast lap on the last lap," because it was, again, a 20-minute session. You kind of run out of things to say when there's only 5 carts out on the racetrack. And so we had a photo, we had everything to go with. I believe it was Jeff Bays, who I think I had as a fast driver. Unfortunately, it was Mike Smith who put that lap down. But again, yeah, he was the only driver to do that. I think we might have saw maybe a couple in shift, or maybe possibly try and do that. Not really sure, because we did see some pit stops being made. But yeah, Smith, looked like, I kept hearing his tuner, Jim Barry, say, yeah, I think we were a little off on the tire pressure when Mike continued to try and make a quick lap during I think it was 10 minutes that qualifying was.
Yep, 10 minutes.
So yeah, so they gave him a lot of time to try and lay down a lap. I know, Lindsey Hyde pulled off early, was really happy with the lap, and again, I think everybody was like, how the hell did you lay down that lap? And Mike Smith was one of them, and yeah, he I think what was at the end of the heat races, maybe, or any of the races, they did a read check and they found out it might have been a little clip. So not sure if it was tire pressure or if it was the read setting, but either way, Mike Smith was able to go on and win all 3 heat races on Saturday.
Yeah, he kind of dominated the action from there. Lindsey Hyde took second in the first heat race. Jeff Bays was in there for second in the second too. Scott Fermanick for Speed Sense Motorsports, got in there, laid his baseline down, and then continued to get quicker and quicker throughout the weekend. Not quick enough to battle with Mike Smith up front, but he was right there scrapping it out. In the pre-final, Smith gets the win again. Jeff Bays in second and Fermanick in third. In the final, Smith ended up just bailing away to an 11.6 second win. It was tough for Jeff Bays, though, David, at the start of that one. Here's the guy that they were dialing the card in all weekend. They were definitely getting quicker, starting to close that gap on Mike. They figured they were going to make some changes to put him in the middle of the fight for the main event. The 22-lapper goes out in the warm-up lap, and I guess they forgot to tighten the bolts up on one of the wheels, and the wheel came off, and that was it for his day. I feel horrible for Jeff, because I think he would have been right there in the scrap for the main event.
Yeah, an unfortunate situation. Again, something you don't want to see happen in the final, something you'd much rather see happen earlier in the weekend. Came out of turn 1 and 2, and the tire was dislodged from the cart. So not exactly the way you want to end, especially with a chance to earn a ticket or even an entry or free tires towards the ROK Vegas event. And essentially that gave Mike Smith a pretty clean slate to drive off and cruise for the 22 laps for the victory.
Yeah, that was up for grabs. The winner of all the categories winning a full entry package to go to the ROK Vegas event in November. Entries, tire, and fuel. Second place getting the entry fee. Third place getting a set of race tires. So again, as you said, Smith with the victory. High second for Manick in third. Rene Bine wrapped up the drivers' P4 that finished, and we're able to get to the checkered flag. One driver in the Masters ROK category that was expected to be more will ended up with one. That was Chad Wallace. He gets the ticket to go to ROK Vegas. Chad just was kind of there cranking out laps throughout the weekend and would love to have had more competition, but he will be, I'm sure, faced with a pretty good grid, David, when they get to Vegas in November.
Yeah, and the one positive from the weekend, he didn't get the cart dirty. He kept it on the racetrack for every session, went out in every session, kept it clean. Aside from the typical wear and tear of racing, but so Chad's going to be obviously one of the first entrants to the ROK Vegas event in the Masters ROK category.
I do believe, though, he finished as the race winner, but with a 10-second penalty because he didn't tab all 4 wheels inside the lines.
That is true. Yes, he did inquire a penalty in the main event. We were like, we heard the radio call, and we were confused. We thought it was for the Masters 100cc, and Mark Michione was having some fun.
He was having some fun.
Yeah. At least it keeps Chad Wallace on his toes. That's exactly the one thing you got to do is you got to keep on him.
All right, folks, when we get back after this quick break, we'll dive into Junior 100cc, Mini ROK, and Micro ROK as we get closer to the end of this edition of the Debrief.
You want the best, you just gotta roll with the best. Streeter Superstands. This is Jeff Wessel from StreeterSuperstands.com. You wouldn't put subpar parts on your racing cart, so why put that cherished ride of yours on anything but karting's #1 lifts and stands, Streeter Superstands. Streeter is the original and genuine manufacturer of the second-to-none Bigfoot rolling stands, stackers, uprights, and industry-leading Superlift. We also manufacture and sell the largest and always growing roster of trailer and shop accessories like tire, engine and jug racks, cabinets, spray can trays, bead breakers, and tons more to outfit any size trailer, team, and budget. Streeter Superstands has over 30 continuous years of experience. We're kart racers just like you and know that the Streeter name represents the absolute best in stands, lifts, and accessories for karting enthusiasts worldwide. Durability, affordability, unmatched quality, and customer service, that's what sets us apart from the rest. Check us out now at StreeterSuperstands.com. Roll with the best, StreeterSuperstands.com.
The new face of competitive karting in the Pacific Northwest region is RaceLab. The full-service karting operation is located at the state-of-the-art Kartplex facility in Oliver, British Columbia, Canada, providing everything you need to hit the track or put yourself in a successful driver development program. RaceLab is the official North American distributor for the TB Kart chassis brand, providing the full range of models from kid kart to shifter kart. Villeneuve Racing Karts is their flagship product, available only through RaceLab. The brand carries the name of Formula One champion and Indianapolis 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve, with each model produced by TB Kart. Kartplex, the home of RaceLab, is situated on the grounds of the Area 27 Motorsports Park. From full arrive and drive TB Kart rentals to leagues and competition karting, the facility provides a new home to developing the future stars of motorsports, all beginning at Kartplex with RaceLab. Follow RaceLab on social media on Facebook and Instagram, or load up their website at www.theracelab.ca to learn more about TB Kart and Villeneuve Racing Karts. RaceLab. Race with us, win with us. Welcome back to the EKN Debrief of the California ROK Championship event up in the Pacific Northwest at Pat's Acres Racing Complex. We'll get into it here as we have the race report continuing, presented by Skip Barber Racing Schools. David, let's jump into the 100cc junior category. It took the day, maybe practice day on Friday, for Caleb Gaffera, a North Carolina driver, to kind of get a feel for Pat's Acres in his first trip there. But once he got it knocked out, bam, he was the man. Qualified on the pole over his teammate Javier Herrera. Alex Rantalo on the GFC was very impressive as well. Was P3 in qualifying, but Gaffera essentially won all three heat races going away. Things got a little more interesting in the pre-final and final on Sunday, but he was just the guy to beat all weekend.
Yeah, he certainly was. Make the long journey over from Italy after racing the FIA Karting Academy Trophy program. And so it didn't show any really jet lag, got back into the groove of things, thankfully, with that Thursday practice and obviously all day Friday. And once things went official Saturday morning with qualifying, he was the driver to beat. And it looked like he was going to go without any challenge, but the main event was certainly a good one. And this was when Alex Rantala and Christian Cameron were able to put on a challenge. They actually dropped Caleb down to the third position early on in the main event. So it was a good little battle. It was each driver kind of measuring up one another, figuring out where they were, and that was something we knew is Caleb's kart was going to come in late, because we saw that in all the heat races. Even though he won by a sizable margin, he was putting down those quick laps late in the race. So it was a good little race that we saw. Once he got around Cameron, he then went after Alex Rantala. I want to say it was around lap 15, and then went on to lead the final 4 or 5 laps to secure the victory.
Yeah, Rantala really stepped things up in the main event, which was nice to see on the GFC camera. On the Tony Kart finished at third. Steven Eisert was fourth, while Javier Herrera rounded out the top 5. 0.683 seconds was the margin of victory for Caleb Gaffera. And when we talked about him afterwards, he really, really liked the Pat's Acres track. Very different to some of the tracks he'd been at before. And I know that in getting a message from his dad, Chuck Gaffera, he loves the fact that he's up here at a track like this, right? Running all the different facilities, the big national series and tracks you run throughout the season. back in 2016. I think they ran at Adams Motorsports Park in one of the legendary tracks in our sport. Being able to come up here and run Pat's Acres, a track built back in 1965. Just those little bucket list events, David. It was a bucket list for you to get there. Cool for a young second generation driver like Gaffer to be able to come out and get that Pat's Acres checklist, check mark on the list.
Yeah, and also it was a good weekend working with Javier under the Rollison Performance Group tent. They were as we saw, nose to tail in qualifying,
yep.
And so it was good. Caleb got to work with Javier there a little bit, and because I don't recall seeing Javier ever at Rollison under the Rollison Performance Group tent, so this might have been his race debut with the team, mm-hmm. And certainly Javier was in the hunt all weekend long. And it was a great little battle between him and Isert in the main event there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no doubt. In the ROK, Mini ROK and Micro ROK ran together on track and within the Challenge of the Americas and, of course, here at the California ROK Championship. It's exactly the same chassis. I mean, exactly the same engine package. No difference. The weight's the same. So just really the ages is what's different for Mini and Micro in this program. So they were kind of battling back and forth. But the Mini drivers did work their way to the front. Eric Doan from Speed Sense Motorsports, David, was the quickest out of the gate in qualifying. Jack Bowdish and Colt Schlotthauer, the Midnight Motorsports drivers on the race factories, were in the fight as well. One driver we didn't see qualify was Jackson Gibson. So he started at the tail of the field, the combined field in 8th, but Gibson in both the first 2 heat races able to go to the front.
Yes, an issue in qualify. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was electrical or something that kept him from completing a lap in qualifying. So Jackson had to come from the tail of the field in all 3 heat races. The opening 2 heats, he was able to knife his way forward and grab that victory. I want to say it was it contact or possibly another mechanical that took him out of the race in heat number 3. That allowed Bowdish to be able to score the win in Mini with Doan in third and second. So that kind of shuffled up the pre-final order, but Gibson was right back up front, scoring the victory in the pre-final. And then it was certainly a wild main event.
Yeah, the main event was a ton of fun to watch. It was essentially Jack Bowdish and Jackson Gibson who were able to pull away. Colt Schlotthauer kind of had slotted into third, but he was a ways back, wasn't able to catch up at the end. Bowdish and Gibson were going at it, and in turn number 10, which is essentially a left-hander, tight kind of increasing radius left-hander that comes back to that turn 11 right-hander. On the penultimate lap, Gibson made a great move. Surprised us all, dove to the inside. I think he surprised Bowdish as well. Was able to take the lead, comes around to get the white flag, but coming back in through the 1-2-3 combination to the right-hand hairpin turn 4, just didn't run the defensive line, not even a half defensive line. That put Bowdish back down to the inside. He makes a great move, takes the lead. David, they get right back around to turn number 10 again. Gibson goes for it again in the same spot. I think that Bowdish kind of knew it was coming, was kind of starting the defense. Gibson wasn't quite there early enough. The two make contact. They go off the racetrack. Schlotthauer ends up coming through with the win.
Yeah, the two got tangled up. Again, the carts got a little bit connected to where they weren't able to get going right away. Yeah. So that obviously gave the room for Colt to come through and take the lead and then go on to score the overall and class victory by 2.6 seconds over Eric Doan.
Yeah, Doan ends up finishing in second spot, Bowdish in third, Gibson fourth, as David said, able to get rolling again. In the Micro ROK category, it was Kason Hodge was really the guy to beat throughout the weekend. Qualified actually on the overall pole. He and Eric Doan were P1 and P2. Axel Bowdish in second, Max de Guzman in third in the qualifying run. Jackson Benham was fourth. But David Hodge really was running in the top 3, top 4 all weekend, and he was able to sweep all of the Micro ROK sessions to get the win by almost 20 seconds over de Guzman.
Yeah, he was in the mix there with the mini drivers all weekend long. Wasn't challenged by any of the other micro drivers up front. So again, it was Hodge to lose, and fortunately for him, was able to keep it clean and nearly pulled off the overall win when that incident happened, as he was closed up on Colt, unable to make a move, and possibly maybe took a smart move by not trying to force anything and keep it clean to be able to score that micro victory.
Yeah, and of course, getting the package to go down and run at the Rock Vegas event. But we've saw this out of Case and Hodge before. That's kind of the speed, David, he showed us coming out of the gate to start the 2022 season at the Challenge of the Americas, right? He was right in the middle of the top 10 every weekend there, running against the guys, at mini age.
Yeah, exactly that. That's something we haven't seen yet. Outside challenge. We're looking, he talked to Austin Elliott and he said, yeah, they're working on some things, but it was certainly a good bounce back weekend to be able to show that dominating performance and then be able to run with the mini drivers as well all weekend long.
All right, final commercial break, folks. When we get back, we'll wrap things up. We'll have a look at our Constructors Championship, and we'll give you the EKN Trackside Live race calendar for July. Stay tuned. We'll wrap it all up after this. All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is the gold standard for quality and performance. In the U.S., OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. From the legendary Tony Kart brand to the race-winning Cosmic and Esprit chassis, and now the new Red Speed and EOS brands, OTK quality is second to none. All 5 brands are winning races and championships across the country in national programs like the ROK Cup USA Florida Winter Tour and the Challenge of the Americas, the SCUSA Pro Tour and Winter Series, and the Pro Kart Challenge, the United States Pro Kart Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup. And OTK products are also front and center on the podium of club and regional races from coast to coast. To learn more about a specific product line, you can find the OTK USA dealer near you, whether it's Tony Kart, Cosmic, Esprit, Red Speed, or EOS. Visit www.otkusa.com. Specific chassis territories are still available, so kart shops interested in adding a winning component to their product lineups can contact OTK USA directly. Motor mounts are critical to producing 100% of the power your engine has to get you on the podium each and every time. Odenthal Racing Products provide the best motor mounts in the karting market today. Odenthal Racing Products is a family-owned and operated business with decades of karting experience, providing products with unmatched quality and value for the karting market. Our newest product is the Pro Series mount for 2-cycle engines, available in 0, 5, and 8 degree angles, providing a rigid structure to help keep vibration to a medium with fins underneath to help dissipate heat off the engine. Our 4-cycle EZ set is one of the most popular mounts for the Briggs & Stratton 206 power plant. Multiple mounting holes provide the most adjustability, depending on your chassis and seat placement. To ensure a tight fit to your chassis, ORP wedge clamps get the job done, featuring a number of updates to its design for a lower profile and lighter weight. The clamps are available from 28mm to 32mm in both standard and Euro sizes. Head to OdenthalRacing.com and find a dealer near you. Odenthal Racing Products, made in the USA. Welcome back to the EKN Debrief, episode number 97, closing in on that number 100 mark. This debrief, of course, has wrapped up our trip up to the Pats Acres Racing Complex for the California ROK Championship, a one-off event that provided entry packages to the winners. Second and third place also getting support to head to the ROK Vegas event in Las Vegas in November. David, let's just wrap things up. The bottom line is it was a really fun, exciting weekend at a very historic racetrack built back in 1965. But you mentioned it from the very start. All it takes is 2 drivers to have an exciting race. We had a lot more kind of in the fight. There were battles throughout the field. We didn't have a huge grid in all the categories, but man, there was just really good racing.
Is it 6 turns or 12 turns? I can't remember.
Yeah, the English will tell you there's 6 corners. I was calling 12 all weekend long, and the map we saw says 12.
The map we saw says 12, even though they revised a certain section that got taken out by the river. It is then which they call River 1 and River 2. So those aren't official corners according to them. But yes, it is. It's certainly a fun. It was fun and an exciting weekend, and it checked off again for me and for others who made their first trip there. Checked it off the bucket list. And again, it has a lot of different elements. I kept telling people, reminded me of like East Lansing kart track here, like a lot of the old tracks that were built in the 60s, where there's still these trees all around the paddock, all around the racetrack. You don't typically see that anymore. You think about Newcastle, you think about Utah, you think about, Sonoma. There are literally no trees anywhere at those facilities.
It's almost like it's almost like a natural amphitheater, right? It's not that there's mounds around the outside of it, but you're completely covered all the way around the outside with trees, right? So you literally feel like you're racing inside, a stadium, which is one of the things I love about it.
Yeah, and I almost wish they would have used like river in the name or something, because again, you have an actual river that goes around the entire facility, and again, it made I'm guaranteed they didn't have to move a lot of the dirt to be able to lay out this racetrack, and they just used the natural terrain to kind of use for the banking and use for the different little hills that they have on certain sections of the racetrack. Again, it just has that natural mystique to it.
Love it. And again, a lot of the conversation throughout the weekend was about how they can add to this event, because the plan is to make it an annual race. Andy and Chris Egger are hooked up. We're going to do this for drivers that race the ROK on the western half of the country. Let's make this kind of a go-to event to come to at a tremendous racetrack. And you heard stuff about maybe having a band on Saturday night, getting more people to come and camp, have some more post-race activities. We had a chance to be there. A number of people had their campers there. I think you get some more campers there. You do a little grilling out one night. Maybe have a big barbecue. You bring a band in. There's some of the stuff you could do to make this a really cool camping weekend for families as well.
Well, and I also think because of how close it is to Canby, how close it is to Wilson. Was it Wilsonville? Wilsonville, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's a great opportunity to bring in spectators, and you're talking about bringing in bands. Well, you open it up to the public. You still have, you tape off the paddock somehow, so that way, the spectators aren't allowed to just run right in, or somehow kind of mix it in. But you get kind of like that Rock Island, that Quincy Grand Prix type feel to it.
Yeah.
I think that could be a possibility. Again, if anything, it opens the eyes up to the local community about the facility and about the sport itself. And again, there's no better feeling than racing in front of spectators that you don't know. That's always, something we've talked about. How do we bring karting to the masses and stuff like that? I really think if you mix in a kind of like a public concert, kind of like how we have at Rock Island Grand Prix, where they have, the concerts at night. If you're somehow able to do it on site, because there's a lot of land there where they had, multiple concerts before.
Yep.
Somehow kind of mix that all in. I think mixing in the public with the karting community with a big, Friday or Saturday night type atmosphere of having a good time and having live entertainment. I think that might be a positive and a different way of looking at promoting this event.
I like it. David, let's have a look at the Constructors Championship. 7 different brands splitting the 8 wins.
Yeah, unique. You think about the numbers, 50, what did we say, 56 drivers in total, and we had 7 different brands winning in the 8 main events. So that's a pretty diverse field. You talk about 2 wins with Cosmic. You got Caleb Schrader and Caleb Gaffera earning the victories in their categories. Kyle Wick on the Track Magic scoring that victory. Croc Promotion with Rusty Lingle. The Gillard with Mike Smith. Red Speed with Chad Wallace. Race Factory in the Mini Swift category with Colt, and Esprit with Case and Hodge. Yeah,
so all told, like I said, 7 different brands scoring the win. Let's wrap things up now and having a look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar, where we'll be for the next essentially 4 weeks. This edition of the calendar brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, Tillett seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. All right, David, a couple of trackside events coming up. You're just, I guess a week and a half away from heading up to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, to the Briggs & Stratton Motorplex at Road America for the USPKS Badger State Grand Prix. Again, the USPKS, who have had such great numbers throughout the season, heading to one of the coolest racetracks in the sport as well, the one located right inside America's National Park of Speed. That's the term.
There you go. America's National Park. I knew you knew it. I wasn't going to doubt it.
I get there.
I knew you were going to get there, but it is one of those rare instances. We have Charlotte Motor Speedway, we have Daytona International Speedway, and we have, we've had Road America. It's kind of been the hidden gem. That was something that we pointed out in 2020 when USPKS went there for the first time. A lot of people had not been there ever before in the sport of karting. So it's kind of been that hidden gem, and now it's right there on the main stage with the United States Pro Kart Series going there for now the third time to the Briggs & Stratton Motorplex at Road America.
So you'll be there, full coverage, of course. They'll have the stream from Kart Chaser, but you're going to get there, full coverage, social media as usual. Maybe a trip to Siebkens before it's all said and done. Should be a good trip for you up to one of a fantastic track, man. I love Road America.
Yeah, Siebkens is definitely on the list to hit up, and again, we'll have everything full coverage as we typically do. Hopefully, we'll have a few little extra things, just because we're in Wisconsin, and again, it's such a historic place to be at.
If you can't get that hot seat locked down, we keep talking about you doing a hot seat on Friday.
Yeah, well, as we talked about, there wasn't a lot of spare time at Superkarts USA Spring Nats to do that. So, no. And then, we had some plans for this past weekend. Unfortunately, they didn't work out. I probably could have done a hot seat, but we were camping and we were having too much fun. So sometimes fun does get in the way of work.
Well, yeah, we decided to make that executive decision this particular weekend. It was good. We will be back you mentioned the Superkarts USA Pro Tour, the Summer Nationals. We'll cap off the 13th edition of that series on July 29, 30, 31. I hated to miss the race at Utah, but I'll be happy to be back on the mic at Newcastle Motorsports Park to cap it off again. July, the final weekend, we'll do our EKN trackside there as well. David, you and I will be side by side once again for that one, and looking forward to what should be a really, really strong weekend to find out who will be the national champions in the Superkarts USA program for 2022.
Yeah, excited to be part of that. Excited to wrap up the 13th season, as you said. Excited to kind of go through and see who actually is going to be in the hunt for the championship in all the different categories. And just seeing the track release, they're going to do the backwards track without the jump. So I think that's kind of a good omen. A lot of people were talking about it on social media yesterday, not having to do the ski jump, normal racetrack, no craziness, but the backwards, I think that was the COVID year. If I recall, it was a summer festival. That was the second weekend that we went backwards, I think.
Indeed. Yep.
So, so a little bit of mix. I know other programs have used that layout. But again, we haven't seen it that very often aside from that weekend. So it'll be fun to see. Maybe it'll be a little precursor to Cup Karts. Maybe Cup Karts is looking at maybe going backwards. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Maybe Craig Jasperson's listening. Maybe, I'd like to see what that track looks like backwards.
That would be interesting. Well, folks, we've wrapped things up for this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode number 97, having a deep dive into the California ROK Championship one-off event at Pat's Acres Racing Complex. I think you probably heard through the feel of David and I talking about it. For us, it was just a really fun event. Everybody seemed to have a good time. A number of people hadn't been part of an event where we had EKN Trackside Live coverage, so they kind of loved that as well. This is an event that we are hoping starts to grow some roots. So people say, hey, listen, I've never been to Pat's Acres before. I want to get up there. Drivers like a Jim Kidd, who actually came last year and was for sure coming back up this season as well. I think you'll see more people say this is a race and a track I want to go to and a race I want to be part of. And we know that obviously there's a lot of people that are passionate about running Andy Saisman's events, whether it be the Challenge of the Americas, whatever that is. I think we'll see this particular race, whether they call it the California ROK Championship being in Oregon. That may change for 2022. But we hope that you join us up there whenever that date does get locked down. That wraps things up for this edition of the Debrief, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of David Cole, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.